Quigley in 5, underwater in the yellow lane.
Jess Carling of Great Britain.
Quigley goes through. The silver to Jess Carling. Wonderful silver medal for Great Britain.
Welcome to the Honest Athletes podcast with
Lauren Quigley
and Jazz Carlin.
Welcome to the podcast. This is the first episode with Jazz and myself. And yeah, we just wanted to start this podcast to be, well, it's called The Honest Athletes for a reason, to be super honest about our journeys in sport and, you know, all the topics that surround being a professional athlete, and to have a laugh as well. You know, we have some great stories that we went through that would be a shame to go to waste.
Yeah, I think it's actually really exciting. I've wanted to do a podcast, or I listen to podcasts all the time, and it's amazing the things that you can find out and learn, but also so many different things. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be able to share some of the stories that I've never told before, that no one knows about, some of the insights that I guess, the questions that people want to know the answers to that you never get the time to answer. So yeah, I'm super excited. First one.
Yeah, so am I. And it's a bit strange actually, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this, and I know some of your stories, Jazz, but I'm definitely interested to hear some more. And I know there's some good ones in there. So, but yeah, let's just talk a bit more about how this year's been, though. First, I think that would be good to touch on, for just to see how you've been. How have you taken this year? Because it's been a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah, this year has been one of the most challenging years for me, for everyone, for all of us, and it's quite hard because we've just started our third lockdown, I believe. Lockdown 3.0. And you know what? It's tough, I think, for me. The instant thought is quite selfish, and it's like, oh, how much it's going to affect my life and all the things that I won't be able to do and things like that. And then when I actually took some time to step back and think, oh, like, my heart breaks for so many people and all the things that everyone else is going through. And I am very lucky that I have a home, and it's pretty tough living on my own and being able to do it that way, doing it on my own. But, you know, it's just one of those things. And I do miss the sport, the leisure facilities and all that kind of thing. And especially being winter, I'm not a fan of the cold. Everyone that knows me knows I don't like the cold. So those cold, short days are tough, you know. But it's just, yeah, not the best time, is it, for any of us? No. And finding it tough, but I think just trying to find myself a bit of focus and things like that, which is why we've got the podcast, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
What about you, Lawrence? Obviously, last year you were in Lanzarote, and now you're back. So you were in the warm and come back to the cold.
Yes, no, you're right. And you just touched on then that you don't like the cold. I think there's lots of people that will relate to that. I definitely can, especially from living in Lanzarote for 2 years previous to the lockdown situation. And it's funny because the lockdown started, a couple of weeks before, had a bike accident. I went over on my bike, my first cycling accident ever, so it was bound to happen. And I'm surprised I got so far in my time in Lanzarote before having one. But yeah, I had a bike accident, went down, broke my wrist, hip was all shredded, elbow, and it was just awful. But so yeah, and then went to the hospital to get checked out, obviously, but it was like right at the start of COVID. So everyone in the hospital waiting area in Lanzarote was masked and, you know, looking at everyone funny, and you didn't really want to breathe anywhere. So that was interesting. And then, yeah, I got my full cast on, and then everything shut down. And it's funny because the UK lockdown was hard, you know, don't get me wrong, it was tough, but the Spanish lockdown was unbelievable. And you weren't allowed outside your house for anything, pretty much, just to go to the supermarket. And I remember being in the apartment, I was on my own, and this car drove past, and it had a speakerphone on top of the car, and it was an automated voice of, do not leave your home. Basically, you'll be punished if you do, in all these different languages, English, Spanish, you know, making sure everyone understood, don't leave your home. And so that was the start of lockdown for me. And luckily, I just managed to get home due to mum booking 2 flights, which obviously is not normal, but for some reason she did. And so I managed to get on one of those and get home. But Yeah, it's been tough, but like you touched on, I'm lucky, I'm safe, I'm with family, we're all healthy, so I can't complain too much. So yeah, that was the start of lockdown for me, which was strange to come back home, but it was also nice.
It's quite hard because I try and think back and think, obviously the elite athletes are luckily still able to train, which is great that they can actually have some form of routine and back to training. But the first lockdown, they couldn't train. They were training at home, doing home workouts. And obviously for all the swimmers for any age that aren't able to swim now. And I try and think back to when I was a full-time swimmer and how much it would have affected me. And I think I would have absolutely lost my head at times.
How lucky are we to have not been swimming when this all happened? I really feel for the athletes right now, because I don't know how I would have managed.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing at that age where some of the younger swimmers, where they're actually just trying to develop, trying to grow, and not knowing when the next competition will be. I think that was what I'd find really tough, is having something to aim for. But again, it's just finding that routine, isn't it? Finding little ways to keep yourself motivated and things like that. And I think for me, this lockdown has probably been the toughest, being dark, cold, short days. And we were very lucky at the start, I think, when it kind of first happened, that we had very nice weather. I was outside all the time. I was going out on my bike and things like that, and being able to do one piece of outdoor exercise a day, which is crazy. But I think not being able to be in water, that's where we've spent most of our lives, which is why we're here, actually, how we met, through swimming. So it's quite crazy that we're not allowed to do some of those things. And I haven't been in the sea yet this year. I'm not sure whether I'm ready yet. It's a bit cold at the minute when it's snowing.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've got some crazy friends, as you have, that have still managed to swim and are jumping in. I think I saw, you might have seen it too, I think it was Kerry-Ann Payne posted on Christmas Day or Boxing Day that she'd got in I don't think it was the sea. Maybe it was a river or something. And yeah, she'd got in on Boxing Day or whatever. It was freezing. And I thought, do you know what? I love swimming, but that's too far. I cannot be doing that. I need a lane. I need a nice, warm, chlorinated pool where I can swim up and down and I'm not freezing.
We need to get you into it. Honestly, I think that's one of the things I've most enjoyed since retiring. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about our swimming journeys, but being able to get in the sea. I got in December. I think it was maybe 10 degrees, the water, which isn't actually too cold. And I went and I swam in Dorset, and I went for the sunrise. And honestly, I get out of the water and I honestly feel so alive. And I think because my body's like shaking, I'm like so cold. I just like, wow, like I just feel amazing. Yeah. And it's like it is quite an addictive feeling. And I can understand why people do it all the time. And it's meant to be so good for you. There's been a lot of research this year, but that's one thing I've definitely enjoyed this year. 2021 now, God, last year in 2020, that was one thing that I was really enjoying again, is open water swimming. So it's funny because I feel like I've done a full circle through swimming and back to doing it for enjoyment and fun and things like that. But why don't we tell everyone a little bit about our journeys, Quigley? So why don't you tell it where you started? Sorry, I do call her Quigley. So why don't you tell where you started and kind of how you progressed through sport, really?
So my start was it's funny. My mum wanted us to swim. And she wanted me and my brother to be able to save our lives in the water, which is super important. And so we did that. And coming from a swimming family, so my auntie Gaynor went to the Olympics, my mum's from for Great Britain. I have trophies at home from counties and all, competitions like that when you're younger, with her name on them from when she won them, and then my name on them, which is quite special. But going back, we learned to swim. It was a club called Saracens, which has always been our home club all the way through, and they've been brilliant. And so we started to swim then. I used to stand on poolside and hold the coach's hand and watch my mum swim, and just love watching her swim and really wanting to get in. And it's funny because mum didn't want us to swim. She wants us to do something else because she knows
that never wants their kids to swim because they know all the early mornings, all the hard work it takes. So I feel like every parent who was swam is always like, no, I want my kids to do another sport that doesn't have to get up at 5 a.m.
Well, just going off topic, Jazz, if you had kids, would you want them to swim?
Maybe not the early mornings.
Just the afternoon.
The afternoons.
So we did every other sport, really. We got thrown into everything, which was fantastic. And I love all sport now, really. So but anyway, I watched Mum swim, and from the family swimming and being inspired, me and Grant just really wanted to swim. And then as soon as we decided that was the point, that we wanted to swim, Mum obviously 100% supported us. And that was our start. And I was lucky to start in a great club with a great coach and great teammates. And so from there, just fell in love with it more and just worked hard and worked on my technique young, and just trained hard and loved the atmosphere and loved it. And so went from there. So I had a fantastic start into the sport. But what about you? How did you get into swimming?
Oh, so I actually didn't really, funny story. My mum actually can't swim. She's petrified of the water. I think that was probably one of the reasons why they wanted me to swim. But as soon as I was allowed as a baby, I was in the water with my dad every week. And I didn't really have much choice whether to actually like swimming or being in the water. And funnily, I probably shouldn't say it, but there's actually videos of when I was younger of my dad like pushing me in the pool.
Post that. That'll go viral, that.
So my dad used to like push me in, but I used to love it. And we've got some amazing footage. We were actually looking over when we were locked down for the first lockdown, and looking back at some footage. And I quickly became just so comfortable in the water, I guess, being in it from such a young age. Then I joined a learn to swim program at the age of 5 at a local swimming club called Tiger Shark. So that was really kind of the first stage, I guess, of learning the basics. And again, mum and dad just wanted me to learn how to swim, to be able to be safe in the water, I guess, if you were away and near water. But I remember vividly from a young age, my dad in particular, making a lot of things like a competition. I'll race you to the goalpost, see how many penalties you can kick. I did a bit of football when I was younger and all those kinds of things. So I remember from a young age, and I don't know whether that's in me or whether that was, I guess, nourished or developed a bit with my dad, that kind of competitive side of the racing and things like that. But I always remember him, race me here, do this, do that, racing all the time. And I guess then from a young age, when I progressed, then I was soon quicker than him in the pool as well. So my dad's he can swim. I wouldn't say he's a very strong swimmer. He swims a lot of breaststroke. But yes, family.
Roger's a legend, by the way. To all the listeners, Roger's an absolute legend, and I'm sure he could beat me in a breaststroke race. So let's not go down that route right now.
For his birthday last year, I actually I got him a Speedo wetsuit, and he's been swimming in a surf wetsuit at the open water place that we go to for the past few years. And I actually got him a proper swimming wetsuit. And so when I got him this wetsuit, he comes running down the stairs, and honestly, he was like feeling great. He absolutely loved it.
That's brilliant. So hopefully we'll be getting him more then, and then he will be able to beat you again, Jazz. So watch out for that.
He does enjoy it, and I think that's what it's all about. And I think it's only when you kind of step away from the sport that you realize all the good things that it can bring and things like that, and being able to do it with my family, I think that's what makes it so special. So it's nice that I can share those memories with my dad from such a young age all the way up till now, really.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, we both had great starts, obviously, in swimming. And I don't think there's a swimmer that had a bad start. I mean, there's a lot of swimmers that say, I hated it when I was little and didn't want to swim and was scared. But yeah, I was never that. I was always wanting to get in and swim. And I think that's always a great start into any sport, really. It's loving it, isn't it? So
yeah, and I think, I don't know about you, Quigley, but I think for me in particular, I definitely didn't look like a standout swimmer or one of the standout ones when I was younger. Mm-hmm. Technique all over the place, looking around to see where everyone else was instead of looking where I was actually going or focusing on my own technique. So I think from a young age, I definitely wasn't one of those kind of standout performances. And I think one thing my mum and dad really wanted me to do was to try out all different sports. So I'd be doing gymnastics, football, running, all kinds of sports, just to give me that exposure. Even netball, I used to love that, all the way through both primary. At primary school, I was wing attack. Wing attack, I was. And then when I went to secondary school, I was then goal defence. Often, sometimes put in shooter, but I wasn't the best. So goal defence I was in netball. But I think that was one of the things, they just wanted me to try out as many different sports as possible. And I think that's one thing that's so important, is being able to try. I mean, I tried gymnastics and I was absolutely terrible. I've got a results sheet in my desk here, and I was at the bottom of my age group in gymnastics. So yeah, what about you? Did you try out other sports as well?
Yeah, we were thrown into all sorts, and we did football like you, basketball, squash, tennis, athletics, trampolining. My brother went to the nationals trampolining, and I got asked to go, but I was like, no, I like to go up and down, and that's about it. But yeah, no, I think it's super important to do all the sports, and it's great, and it helps. I believe it helps swimming. It helps any sport you're doing to have that sort of whole base of all different sports. But just touching on the next part of the phase, because I didn't know you when we were younger, because we obviously weren't in the same age category. And when you're younger, it's all about what your age group is, and everyone goes on the rankings, and I'm second for the 13-year-olds, and all that sort of stuff. How aware were you of things like nationals first? Because I remember getting my first national, and this happened a lot, and someone came over, I was young, very young, and saying, "You just got your first national." And I said, "Well, that's absolutely amazing. What's a national?" And so then had to have it explained to me. Were you aware of nationals, or were you just cracking on as you were?
Yeah, I don't remember from that kind of very first nationals, but I always remember in my club it was kind of celebrated. Because being such a small club, if 3 people made it to nationals, they'd get on we had a club like board that would be at the pool, and people would set a picture up, and it would be celebrated that people had actually made nationals, which was great. So I guess seeing that as I was younger, definitely thought, I'd love to go to nationals or whatever. I guess I didn't really know what it was all about.
Yeah.
And I actually had Grant Turner, who was in my swimming club as well, who went on to go to the Olympics, and very successful swimmer. So he was a couple of years older than me. So I guess Grant had gone through, and he had a really breakout year, and at a young age he was great in his age group. And so I guess having someone in your club that was like, oh wow, he's doing really well, like I want to be able to race at nationals and do really well and things like that. But I did qualify for nationals at 11, which when you look back, I think, God, I was so young, and was I ready to race the best in my age group at 11? But
when you were at nationals, especially the first few years, were you making finals, semi-finals, not making them at all, loving the heats? What were you? Where were you ranked? Were you successful?
I wouldn't say successful. I think I'm not sure, but when I was younger, I think it was like 11 and 12s, 13, 14. So you're kind of in like a double age group, which didn't really help in your individual age group. So it was more medals for those double age categories. But I qualified in a range of events from, I'm sure it was like 200 backstroke or breaststroke. And if you saw my strokes now, you'd be like, how on earth did she go to nationals for those other strokes? But yeah, managed to get a few times. And I went and was by no means one of the best in my age group, in fact quite far off, but I think that probably helped me in the long run, because I think that gave me, I want to get a little bit quicker, and what can I do to be faster and better. So I was nowhere near the best in my age group, but I think that kind of spurred me on, that each year I wanted to try and get a bit faster, a bit stronger. It was when I was kind of like 14 that I started to have a bit of a breakout year. And that was the first time, and that was in the 400 and 800 then. So I've always been more suited, I think, to the longer distance events, whether that was doing 400 IM, 400 freestyle, or just the longer events, was more suited to them. What about you, Quigley? Have you mainly been backstroke, or did you do more?
It's funny you should ask, Jazz, because I'm surprised you don't know this, but I was an 800 freestyler at the start.
I'm sure you've told me this before.
I think I might have told you this. Yeah. It was like, I can't remember what year it was. I think I was 14. And it was the 800 free, and the 800 free was always in the middle of the day at the nationals because no one wanted to watch the 800 free.
Was 14 your first nationals?
No, my first one was the age that you can start nationals. I don't know
11.
what the earliest age is, something like that. Yeah. So I did all the events, apart from, and I have a confession, and this is not out there in the universe. Only a few people know jazz, so anyone listening or jazz watching, it's an exclusive. It's an exclusive. I have never raced a 200 fly in my life, not short or long course. So I don't even know
There's
if
still
I qualify as a professional swimmer or did, because I'd never done all the events. I've never done 200 fly. So
I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting, actually. You can go on and search, like on the British Swimming website. I think there's like a page, I don't know whether it's rankings or whatever, and you can type in like your name or anyone's name, and you can find out their best times in every different event and what year and how old they were. And I went back and I can't remember when it was. I looked back and I was like, oh God, like some of these times, I mean, the best time I'd done it was when I was 12 or 13 and obviously hadn't raced it since, but there's still time. Maybe I'll try and break my 200 breaststroke record. There's still time to get a best time.
That's your lockdown project, I think, is to let's get it trending on Twitter. Hashtag get jazz a 200 breast PV. But yeah, I think I was 14 maybe, and I was at the nationals and I'd done 800 free for a while and I'd done free and back. I was starting to go down those avenues, and it was the heat declared winner at nationals, and I was the heat before the last or 2 heats before the last. And I just thought, I said to my mum before I went down, I said, I don't want to do 800 freestyle anymore. And she said, well, that's fine, but if it's going to be your last one, go out with a bang. So I just thought, right, I'm going to go for it. So I was in the middle lane and I went 850, I think, 850 at 14. And I was, I was really happy with it. I still have the DVD of it here at home, and it's.
You still buy the DVD at nationals?
I don't know. I'm gonna find. I'm pretty sure it'll probably be on a memory stick nowadays.
Have you even been to nationals? If you don't have a nationals with the year that you've been on, a hoodie, a DVD, and maybe a picture, like a picture of you, like
with a magnet on the fridge. Yeah, we've all got it. And I remember I did really well, and I think I got a silver medal at nationals for that year, for the 800. And Jess Tealman, I remember coming round because she was in the last heat. She's a phenomenal distance swimmer, and I know you know Jess very well, and she's awesome. But Jess went, where did that come from? As I got out of the pool, and I was like, I don't know, Jess. But she then
knew it was your last one. You knew it was your last one, so you were celebrating.
Well, I did, and I loved it. And I touched the wall, and I thought, I'm retired from 800 freestyle. But because I'd done so well, I got invited onto the open water camps and everything. And so I ended up doing the great swims. I did the one in Salford, and it was on TV, and I was with Cassie Patton and Kerry-Ann Payne, and I got absolutely leathered by all of them. They were way ahead of me, but and I really didn't want to do it. I'm pretty sure I touched things in Salford Keys that you're not supposed to be touching. So that's then I really retired. Then I was like, I am not doing distance anymore, and that's when I went down into the backstroke route at about 15. So. Yeah.
It's quite unique, isn't it? To go from like distance event 800, which was the longest female event in the pool, to then your main event. You'd say the 100 back being your main event.
Yeah, that was the aim, to go down the 100 backstroke route. But I was, the 200 was still an event for me as well, and I did 50, 100, and 200 really all the way through. I tried to focus on the 100 one year, and it went really well in Kazan 2015, but. Yeah, I switched. I looked over at the sprinters and I thought, they're having a great time over there. So I'm going to join that crew, and did it early enough for it to actually be okay. But yeah, did you stick with distance all the way through? Did you dabble at all in sprint?
I used to do, a few of the relays. And I think that's one of my best memories is having relays at our local leisure centre against some of the local clubs, counties and things like that. I just used to love a relay. But yeah, definitely always been more suited to the longer distance events. But again, if I had the choice, if I could just choose which day, I probably would choose a shorter event, just because the pain doesn't last as long. 800, it's so hard to describe the pain. But from halfway, I normally get this pain in my stomach. I don't know whether you remember because you did it at a young age.
Yes, I do.
I feel like my stomach is like dropping out of me, and you're like, oh, it's just honestly so. Only distance swimmers know the pain of an 800 or 1500, where you just feel like your stomach is just falling out of you, which isn't so comfortable.
Yeah, no, that I only experienced that obviously a couple of times, but it's not pleasant. And the lactate in the lats, you probably maybe didn't get it in the end. I don't know, maybe you did, but that used to really hurt after a distance event. So there was definitely but yeah, you know, we joke and everyone jokes sprinters are, you know, lazy or they, but each one done properly, sprint, distance, middle distance, is just as hard as the other if, you know, you're giving it all your effort. But yeah, distance swimming came with its challenges for sure, and its stomach aches.
What event would you, if you had to pick one, which event would you say is the toughest swimming event to take on?
I mean, having not done 200 fly, let's just take that into account because I don't know. I did ask, do you know who I asked this question? Because I thought this person is probably the best person to ask, was Hannah Miley, because she's does them. I mean, I know she doesn't do 100 free, you know, she's dabbled, I know, and she's still amazing at it, but she sticks to more 400 medleys. But I did ask her, I think my question to her actually specifically was, what's the hardest 200 meters long course? And she said to me 200 backstroke, which I was chuffed with because I was like, oh, I'm tough then, you know. But for me, oh, you know, I don't know. I think I've been in the most pain from a 200 back long course. But I honestly couldn't say because, you know, they all come with their own challenges. Like the, you know, distance freestyle, it comes with some real pain. But what would you say? Because I don't know, that's tough.
Again, yeah, it is subjective. And I haven't raced some of those events for a long time. I think 200 fly always looks very painful.
Hence why I didn't do it.
400 IM, I can imagine. I haven't done it for a very long time again, but I can imagine very painful because it's just using all the muscles in different strokes.
Yeah.
I used to find 1500 free one of the toughest ones just because you're taking, well, my best was 15 minutes, 47 seconds. And if you're just trying to hit the
so fast. That's so fast.
Somehow I've got the British record for it, but I didn't used to enjoy that event.
Somehow. Olympic silver medalist. Somehow I've got the British record. Yeah, Jazz, you were awesome at swimming, girl.
But it was just, it's just a long way and mentally very challenging. But actually, when I broke the British record, it was 2013, I broke the British record in the 1500 meters freestyle. I was looking at every 100 at my time at the scoreboard. So I would turn around, have a look, and I could see what pace I was going. So I knew exactly what I turned in. I knew exactly what kind of pace I was on. Which is probably, you're not meant to see your times. They're not meant to be able to see the scoreboard, but it definitely helped me and knew that I was sticking to my pace or if I needed to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah, to be fair, why not? That makes sense. In terms of pacing in races, just a quick little story here. And I haven't, again, this is not something that I've spoke about much. I've told my friends and family and it's a funny story, but at the London Aquatic Centre, it was the Olympic trials for London, you know, so it was big hype. Everyone was still excited. I was still quite young in 2012 at those. So I was more just like young and trying to take it all in. And it was the 200 backstroke final. It was the last day. And we got into race, you know, take your marks, go. We're underwater. And we were the first race. And what they'd done by accident was, you know, you can have speakers underwater at those pools for synchronized swimming and stuff, I think. So you can hear the music and everything. Well, they left them on. So I could hear the commentary. Well, we could all hear the commentary super clear for the race. So I'm in the race and he's going, and Lizzie Simmons has just turned in something ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, Lizzie's smashing it here, you know, and then it would like turn and Lizzie's gone this at 100 meters and you know, and it was like everyone in the race I could hear who was doing really well, who wasn't. I don't know if the commentator actually mentioned me in that race, but I was listening as a fan of like, go on, Lizzie, you can make the Olympics here, you know, sort of thing. It was the most surreal experience.
Yeah, it's because I think some swimmers like to swim and just feel like they've got the blinkers on, like they can just imagine their lane. And I know some swimmers that would purely have goggles to block out so they couldn't see anyone to the side. That's mainly like fly or breaststroke. Whereas for me, I used to thrive. I used to love knowing where I was. I guess on backstroke you can't really see too much unless you've got the underwater sound on. But I used to really enjoy knowing where I was in the race, and that used to motivate me and keep me going, I guess. I used to really love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just to touch on, to go carry on with the journey, I'm sure we'll touch on it more, and I'm sure people would love an episode on just your journey, Jazz, particularly just from going to the Olympics, you know, going all the way through. And I would definitely love to hear it. But going on then to the Olympics, I mean, there's so many questions that fill my head when I say that. And obviously we're good friends, and, you know, it seems weird that I don't know all the answers, because I could ask you any time, of course, but this is part of the reason why I'm excited to do this podcast and hear about your story. But going to the Olympics, what I say to you now, Olympic silver medalist, how do you feel when you hear that and that's you?
It's still a bit surreal, really. I just think I'm me, Jazz. I'd always introduce myself, and it's weird because I actually went through a stage, not as much now. I think now I've retired, but when I swam, I went through a stage where if I met people or if I was introduced to people and they say, what do you do? I'd just say, I work in sport. I would never actually say, oh yeah, I'm a swimmer or whatever.
That was post Olympic silver medal?
Yeah, all throughout, really. It's only been the past kind of 6 months to year where I've actually started to be comfortable introducing myself and talking a little bit about my journey to people. Wow. And I'm not quite sure why, but I always felt a bit embarrassed, I guess, talking about myself and being able to actually tell people. And I just didn't think people would be interested, or I don't know, it just felt like I didn't really want the attention on me. But yeah, I got mixed memories, and I'm actually really looking forward to delving a bit more into the Olympic story and yours both, talking about the competitions, all those stories that we've got, because there's so much to talk about. But yeah, being able to, I guess, call myself an Olympic medalist, Olympic swimmer, it's just a dream come true, really. And got lots of stories and lots of highs and lows that really kind of got me there. But even now, like, I forget about my Olympic medals, and people are like, oh, did you not bring your Olympic medals? And I'm like, oh no, like I completely forget about them. But I think for me, it's more about the knowing in myself and the journey that it took to get there, really. I think that's what made it so special. So it's quite hard to summarize a career or your story really quickly. What about you, Quigley? Because obviously both retired now. Do you find it easy to talk about and things like that?
It's funny. I, you know, on this series, we want to be completely honest, and we've spoken about this, and, you know, anyone that's listening, thank you. And we hope that you continue to listen, because we had the conversation of, if we're going to do this, we're going to be really honest. And, you know, you get the interviews on TV of athletes speaking and stuff like that, and you can never fully get your stories across and how you feel or how you felt at certain points. So hopefully this will be interesting for people to listen to. And yeah, there's loads to talk about. And I spoke to a psychologist a few years ago now, and he said to me, write down all your achievements, what you've done so far, and then next session we'll go through them. And so I was writing them down, and it was an interesting process, because I didn't, like you've just said, I didn't really believe that I'd done them. But anyway, I was writing them down. And then when I spoke to him on the next session, he said to me, so how did you feel writing those down? And I said, I felt like I was writing them down for someone else, because it didn't feel like I'd done them, or for some reason, I found it hard to connect the two, that's me, I've done that. And so, yeah, it's an interesting process, because you think, wow, I think you, Olympic silver medalist, you be proud and talk about it and everything. And And actually, you've just said, well, I wasn't really comfortable talking about it. And it's a really strange thing to deal with and go through. And I wouldn't have noticed that without writing them down and speaking to the psychologist. And it's, I'll obviously speak more in future episodes of psychology and what I went through. But yeah, it feels strange that after the Commonwealth Games, I got silver medals there, and then we went home early because there was the European Championships and we had to go back and get ready for that. And I was sat at home and I was watching the following week, because it was still going on. I was watching someone from England get a silver medal in gymnastics, and I turned to my mum and I said, wow, that's amazing, that gymnast just got a silver medal. And mum turned to me and went, Lauren, that was you last week. And then I was like, oh yeah. And it's so strange that you just don't go, yeah, I did that, or that was me, or, and speak about it so much. And it's a weird complex that I'm looking forward to diving into a bit more, and particularly from what you've just said yourself. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, it's a funny one as well. I always think you're in a little bit of a bubble when you're involved. Well, from our experiences from swimming, being in a bubble of other swimmers, you kind of all chasing that goal, I guess, to go on to race internationally. Every year there's a different international competition to aim for. And I think, how many times did I actually get back from a competition and kind of celebrate, enjoy, and realize what I'd actually done and celebrate it a little bit? And it's actually very rare. I think you're always chasing the next thing. You're always chasing what's next. Rarely sat in the moment and actually enjoyed it. And I think still, I guess, coming to terms with it now, and being able to accept it, but stepping away, you realize what a bubble it is. And being in that kind of swimming sporting bubble, when you step away, you think, oh wow, like I went to all these different competitions, experiences and things like that. And it's just crazy, I guess, when you step out to think, oh, why did certain things mean so much to me at the time? Or why did I stress or worry about that? Because when you kind of step back and think in the grand picture and the bigger scheme of things, they actually seem like the smallest things, but at the time they feel like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. Whereas really it was just, I had a bad swimming session in the pool, and it's really not the end of the world.
Yeah. You're still alive. We're still here. It's all good. And it's like stepping out of that. It would have been great whilst we were swimming if we had the opportunity to step out of the swimming bubble and just to look in and just to realise and have perspective of, it's not the end of the world, actually. You didn't hit your time on one of the reps. You're still alive, love. Crack on. It's really not that big a deal, but it really is. And it's when it becomes your job and your pleasure as well. And you're tired, and, it's funny because now, having stepped out, you appreciate how fit you were, but because you were so tired all the time, you don't appreciate it then either. And so it's that me and my brother were saying the other day, Grant was saying that, you can say to the younger swimmers until they're blue in the face, enjoy it, and perspective, and try and, offload as much as you can onto them. But when you're young, you're reluctant to it. You're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And you just crack on. And so it's interesting to now be able to look and go, I did really well there, actually. Wow, why was I stressed about that? Or, and have perspective. And I think it's a great thing as well. It's learning, it's growing through the sport. It's using what you've learned to, for the future, and to help the next up and coming athletes that are coming through and wanting to have a great career themselves. Just to touch on that, because we obviously, I'm sure we could sit here and talk hours about all sorts, and we will, I'm looking forward to recording all the episodes and getting them out there. But just to touch on this year, I mean, you've obviously set up Swim with Jazz. That's been going for a while now. And I just set up Quigley Sport this year. And so we've obviously decided to collaborate and to go into partnership and work together, which I think is brilliant. Obviously, I was super excited when we decided to go for that. But just maybe speak a bit, Jazz, about Swim with Jazz and where you were going with that, and what you're looking forward to with it.
Yeah, it's crazy actually to think it would be coming up. I think in April it would be a year that it's been ready. I've launched Swim with Jazz nearly a year ago, which is absolutely crazy. And I mean, launching and starting a new business at the start of a global pandemic maybe isn't the best timing that I would have chosen myself, but we can't pick them all. But for me, Swim with Jazz, it was always a passion of mine to be able to help people with their swimming. It's always been, from when I was actually swimming, I wanted to be able to help people, whether that's schools, clubs or whatever. But since I retired, the picture was trying to be able to help athletes, no matter what age, progress with their swimming. And for me, it felt like sometimes there's a lot of kind of different bits of information, but being a swimmer, you don't know, which bits are going to help me or help me be better in the pool. So I brought like the team together that I worked with for the majority of my career throughout my time as a swimmer, and I brought them online to a platform that can give everyone the information they'll need to help with their swimming, whether that's physio, more swim specific, shoulder mobility, shoulder stability, being able to know what to do before you get in for a pool, for a warm up and things like that. The psychological side, confidence, breathing, how to be ready for race day, and all the bits that you can even imagine, nutrition, gym training, strength and conditioning, all those things that you get access to kind of as an elite athlete. I wanted to bring it down so it was accessible to everyone, and that people know what they can do to further their training to be the best swimmer they can be. And for me, every swimmer, every person, everyone that I work with, I just want to be able to support their goals. And to me, it doesn't matter whether someone's goal is to swim 400 meters without stopping, or whether it's they want to go on and go to the Olympics or win a medal at nationals. For me, the goal and the dream is everything from whatever level you are. And I just want to be able to help and support. So I think that's one thing that's so exciting about the both of us, is that we share I believe we share similar passions. And that we just want to be able to help, support and make it as fun and enjoyable as possible. Just really excited to be doing some stuff together, really looking forward to our first training camp. I think it's really exciting, and especially on this podcast, being able to just be brutally honest, to be able to give our opinions and stories and experiences, and just to be able to share as much as we can. I think this is going to be probably the most unfiltered platform that we've ever had to speak about certain experiences, stories and things like that. And it's just really exciting that we can connect with an audience and hopefully be able to help them in some way as well. So with Quigley Sport, how are you finding it? And obviously you're kind of more newer retired than I am. So how are you finding it all?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's, whoever went first to explain their Swim with Jazz or Quigley Sport, I think would have had the exact same answer. We're listening to you talk, and we've obviously talked loads beforehand and everything. We have the same passion, exactly the same passion, pretty much. And so it only really made sense to come together and work together. And, I've seen people go off individually, but it's really nice to join forces, I think. The way that people that collaborate and are successful in their passion is to collaborate. And so the more you can do that, the better the outcome for everyone. And so for us to join forces, obviously we had two different journeys, and so those working together, we have an even wider understanding and help for all different people. And so the goal is the same as yours. The athlete mentoring is something I want to focus on as well. It's something that I sort of wish I'd had or asked for or something when I was swimming. And so that's a route that I've gone down. That's a real passion for me to help the younger guys and in their own journeys, and hopefully help them, not go down certain paths that I maybe went down, that I learned lessons, and my journey was not, I didn't go to the Olympics, but I got pretty close, and I wouldn't be what I'm doing right now if I hadn't have gone down that journey. So I wouldn't really change it. And so it's from our experiences, and it's from what we've done ourselves that we can now go forwards and help people and do these things. And whether it does or not, I love to say or think that everything happens for a reason. And so here we are today working together, and it's fantastic. And yeah, this is going to be definitely a raw, uncut, unfiltered version of what it's like to be a professional athlete. And, you know, I don't think we're going to be holding anything back. So there's going to be some interesting episodes to come out of this for sure. That sounded like a bit of an evil laugh. That, like, right, everyone, get ready. We're going to throw everyone under the... No, I'm kidding. We're not throwing everyone under the bus, but no, it should be good.
I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. And I think it's just the start. I think there's so many different things that I'd love to talk about, but yeah, really excited.
Well, I think that's episode 1 done. I think it was it's the start of a new journey. I'm looking at the camera that's going to be on the YouTube episodes. Just say thanks to everyone that's going to watch and is listening. And we look forward to, you know, taking you through the journey of this whole podcast, and hopefully not getting in trouble from anyone for being honest. But yeah, no, it should be great, and we're looking forward to the start of something new.